Once upon a time, there was a small village hidden deep in the hills, surrounded by thick forests and mountains. The village had a strange story that everyone feared, especially when the night sky turned red with the light of a blood moon. On such nights, a young woman would disappear without a trace. She was taken on her wedding night, and nobody knew where she went. Some villagers said a dark spirit from the hills took the bride as his own. Others whispered that the forest itself would swallow her, for reasons lost to time. But nobody dared to speak too loudly about it. They simply waited, hoping the curse would not choose someone they loved. One day, a brave young woman named Ada decided she could no longer stand the mystery. Ada was different from others. She was not afraid of the stories that scared the other villagers. She was known to be stubborn and curious, and she always asked questions. Ada had heard the story of the blood moon bride since she was a child, but she couldn't accept it as fate. Ada was to marry Emeka, a kind-hearted man who loved her dearly. Emeka had always worried about the blood moon, for he knew it was close to their wedding day. But Ada comforted him, saying, "I will not let any spirit or curse take me away. I want to know why this happens and stop it once and for all." As the day of their wedding approached, the village elders warned Ada and Emeka to wait until after the blood moon had passed. But Ada, stubborn as ever, refused. She wanted answers, and she felt her wedding night would give her the only chance to find them. That night, as the blood moon rose high in the sky, Ada dressed in her wedding clothes. Her family and Emeka's family gathered to celebrate, but the joy was mixed with fear. Everyone kept looking to the sky, knowing the curse might strike. But Ada did not show her fear. She danced and laughed with Emeka. "If any spirit comes for me, let it come," she whispered to him. "I will find out why it has taken so many brides." As the moon climbed higher, a strange mist began to cover the village. It was thick and heavy, rolling in from the hills and settling like a blanket over the fields and houses. It became hard to see even a few feet ahead. Ada's heart pounded, but she held Emeka's hand tightly. Suddenly, a cold gust of wind swept through the village, chilling Ada to the bone. Emeka's grip on her hand loosened as he felt an invisible force pulling her away. Ada looked back and saw Emeka's terrified face as her hand slipped from his. The mist became so thick that she could no longer see him, and in an instant, she was alone. The mist wrapped around her, pulling her into the forest. She stumbled but didn't resist. Instead, she whispered, "Show me. Show me the truth." The mist led her to an ancient clearing she had never seen before. In the middle of it stood an old tree with twisted branches, its roots digging deep into the earth. Under the red light of the moon, the tree looked alive, as if it was watching her. And there, sitting under the tree, was a figure, a man in dark robes, his face hidden in shadow. "Why have you taken so many brides?" Ada demanded, her voice firm despite her fear. "Why do you curse our village?" The figure slowly lifted his head, and she saw his face. It was pale, his eyes dark and hollow, like he had seen centuries pass.
"I did not take them,"
he whispered, his voice like the rustling of leaves.
"They came to me willingly, seeking what lies beyond this life."
Ada felt a chill. "What do you mean?" "They loved their families, they wanted to live." The man nodded slowly.
"Yes, they loved. But they also wanted freedom. I offer them a world beyond the mortal life, where pain and sorrow do not touch. But it is a choice they must make, for there is a price."
Ada's curiosity grew stronger than her fear. "What is this price?" The man looked at her with sadness in his eyes.
"Once they cross into my world, they can never return. Their families may mourn, but they will never see them again. Each bride you have lost is here, bound to the blood moon forever."
He raised his hand, and Ada gasped as she saw shadowy figures appear all around the clearing. They were the brides who had vanished on their wedding nights, each one looking young and beautiful, but with hollow, empty eyes. They stared at her, silent, as if waiting for something.
You could join them,
the man whispered.
Your life would be free from sorrow, from pain, from the hardships of this world.
But Ada shook her head. I cannot leave my family, my Emeka. They would suffer as these families have suffered. The man's face grew sadder. It is the path of the blood moon. The choice is given, and only the brave may refuse. Ada looked at the other brides, wondering if they regretted their choice. As if reading her thoughts, one of them stepped forward. Her voice was soft and filled with regret.
We were deceived by our own desires. We thought we would find happiness, but instead, we became trapped.
Ada felt the weight of the bride's sorrow as they circled her, their empty eyes pleading with her to make the right choice. But something else caught her attention, a single red rose lying on the ground beneath the tree. It seemed out of place, as if it held a secret. She bent down and picked it up, feeling its thorns prick her skin. The man's voice grew tense.
That rose is forbidden. It binds you to this place if you choose it.
Ada's mind raced. What if this rose holds the key to breaking your curse? The man's eyes flashed with anger, but there was a hint of fear as well.
You do not understand the power you are playing with.
Ignoring his warning, Ada held the rose tightly and closed her eyes. She whispered, If I must suffer to end this curse, I will. Let the blood moon release these brides and lift the sorrow from our village. A powerful wind swept through the clearing, tearing at the man's dark robes and lifting the shadows of the brides. The earth trembled, and the man's face twisted in agony as he reached out for Ada.
You foolish girl. You do not know what you have done.
The blood moon's red light began to fade, replaced by a blinding white glow that surrounded Ada. The bride spirits floated into the sky, their faces finally free of sorrow, as if a great weight had been lifted from them. As Ada felt herself fading, she thought of Emeka, of the village, and of the freedom she had brought to the lost brides. But just as the light was about to consume her, she heard the man's voice, low and filled with a terrible promise.
You may have freed them, but the curse is not broken. You have only begun to awaken the secrets hidden in these hills. The blood moon will return for you.
And with that, Ada felt herself pulled back into the mist, surrounded by darkness. She opened her eyes to find herself alone in the clearing, the rose still in her hand, but the man and the spirits were gone. The village was silent when she returned. No one dared to speak of what had happened, and Ada never told anyone of the man's warning. But each night, she looked to the sky, waiting, knowing the blood moon would come again, and bring with it a darkness she had yet to uncover. The end, for now.